So listen, we're all married gentlemen, most of us, the gentleman part. That's the way that joke always works. Uh, and we have kids, we have wives. We're very fortunate. So I want to get your opinion, you guys. We have a dog, and it's a dog. It's just a mutt. And I keep trying to tell the dog. It comes up to me. It wants to lick me. Like wants me to hang out with it. And I keep saying, "Hey, I don't really like you."
And the dog hears, he's talking to me. That's awesome. He's talking to
And
me.
and I understand the sort of like it's sort of like an old Windows versus Mac debate. Like I understand both sides. I just don't want the extra responsibility of the dog, and the dog's kind of annoying. Sometimes I like dogs, but it's just I feel like this is one of those areas of my life where I need to just reprogram my brain to like dogs for the rest of my life.
Well, yeah, you're on the hook for what, 10 more years?
Well, start with the beginning. Did you or your wife or your children want the dog?
Well, I was the last holdout, and I finally relented, like about a summer ago, and because I felt like it was the right thing to do. Get a dog with kids, and my wife Kim always wants a dog, and I just knew I was going to lose eventually, so I thought I would just proactively lose. I just folded, and so I thought I would become part of the process or whatever. But I feel like now we have a dog, and the dog
And you're the one
nothing. But it's like a year and a half. It's a young dog.
So the way you have to sell this to yourself is that you have to say, "Well, I like being a husband and a father, and therefore I have to be a dog owner." Like it has to be. I've come across this quandary myself. I've lived in this quandary, and now my dog is older, so I'm kind of giving up. I'm just on message that we don't need another dog when the time comes and our dog passes on.
Hold
But
You've
fast.
got a long haul against you. Like I can't. I'm not gonna sell you 10 years. It's gonna be easy, Coach A. But that's
yeah.
your best option is to get ahead of it and say like, it was great while we had a dog, but now we've had
Well,
one and the kids are older and it's busy, so let's not get another one.
well, you
That's
know what you know what they say. You know what hardened dog owners say about owning a dog. There's only 2 days of owning a dog. There's the day you start owning the dog, and there's the day the dog dies.
This isn't a boat.
It's
I
not a
think
boat.
that is that
It's a
not a
boat.
line? That's a line from The Wire, isn't it? Right? There's only
I,
two,
be-
we do
I
two
believe it
days.
is. Yes.
Wow, dog ownership compared to prison. That I like. That I can get behind.
It's like a country club with slobber. Yes, every day I get home, my dog attempts to knock me over and bite me at the
I
same.
mean, I think to play out the usual cliche thought, it would also be fine if like someone else just took care of the dog, which mostly sort of happens. But the dog's just always coming up and wanting to lick you and hang out with you and sit in your lap and like,
That's not like prison. Oh dear. So yeah. So you've been out of town. The dog
yeah.
excited
Oh,
to you when you got back.
yeah, that's yeah, and I like the dog. I mean, speaking of dogs, I went to my first Gartner conference, and I actually like volunteered to go to it because I'd never been to a Gartner conference, and I hear they're kind of a big deal, and I'm interested. Have you been to a Gartner conference, Matt Ray?
Have not. I have
Hmm.
not. I think my boss
Well,
might have been there.
they have the data center one next week, which seems like something that Chef would be interested in.
Maybe
But what
that's
do
where he's
I?
going. Yeah.
But like yeah, I went to the Gartner AADI. I think it's Application Development and Architecture Conference. Although that would be Architecture and Application Development I, whatever that stands for. And it was actually I would say in all respects it was a pretty good conference. Like from the respect of I can see how an attendee would really like it. The content was interesting. And then also as a sponsor, as a vendor there, it was pretty good. We had a lot of actually like a lot different type of people than come up to your booth than like a DevOps days or an O'Reilly conference,
Oh yeah.
which I think was interesting. Like they were like these donkeys I'm always talking about. like and other folks. Like we had this one person come up and like, yeah, we're building like a 5,000-10,000 foot data center like from scratch and putting this in there. And what do you guys do? Right. And it's just like there's all these like regular folks. And it was also interesting that two topics very popular, other than the software is eating the world and, you know, all that usual nonsense or stuff that's highly accurate that should make you want to buy all of our products. Other than that stuff, like everyone was obsessed with the microservices and the Docker. Like, it came up all the time, and it was an interesting conference for that to be happening, because it was like to use like there needs to be that whatever the metaphor is, where something people talk about all the time but no one actually does it. That's kind of what it felt like. There was like two types of conversations. There was people coming up saying what it was, or asking what it was, and what the involvement was. Like there's a long conversation I had with someone from the Social Security Administration about like basically supporting Docker and like them wanting to do everything in Docker, which is fine. And then the analysts either would be wanting to figure out like what are people that you're talking with doing with these technologies, or they had kind of like done the Microsoft trick and had come up with their own definition for everything and were therefore telling you why no one actually does this or something like that. Like it's almost like the two types of analysts. It made me realize there's two types of analysts. There's that I just described there. There's the ones who are like always kind of like trying to figure out what the fuck is going on out there and just kind of write about that. And that's kind of the type of analyst I was. And it has its pluses and minuses. And then there's the other one who I call them like the theory analysts. Like they come up with a model or a theory, and they're always fishing for people to validate their points.
Ooh.
Not invalidate their model.
Right.
But they've come up with like, this is what I think the thing is. And therefore, like they're always fishing for people who validate it. Or if you don't validate it, they tell you why you're wrong. And it's and I think for something like Docker and microservices,
right now,
I don't know
you have to be kind of the first category where you're trying to stay on top of it and understand it.
Right.
You know, if you try to wrap up a theory and then, you know, shoehorn everything that's going on into your theory, you're probably going to be missing what's really happening. And people who buy into your theory are going to be misled. But your choices are, you know, you can adhere to a theory, or you can have known unknowns.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing and I'm sure this has happened. If I sat here long enough and didn't talk, I could probably think of some examples. I'm sure this has happened in the past, but at the moment, like the way analysts go about doing their work it's hard for them to comment on anything. For like what you're saying is because the stuff that everyone is interested in talks about, like very few people actually do. So analysts do really well when they're talking about commoditized ideas and concepts, and they're just helping you rank existing things and do things like that. But if it's sort of like, well, the Netflix people do this, the Guilt Group people said that, and every now and then like Martin Fowler writes a blog post, right? Like there's no like raw data to report on. It's kind of like early Republican primaries. It's just like all the batshit crazy stuff comes out, and there's no real like validation until there's actually like a market to vote on it.
So you can report on the horse race, or you can, you know, try to extrapolate the horse race, which is going to be wrong too.
Yeah. And
but I do think, you know, just to be like a little bit more positive on the theory side, the one role I think all these analysts are trying to do is just to provide some way of thinking about a very complicated, usually hard to understand area. So
sure,
in the more positive light, it's like hopefully those guys are kind of putting forward a theory, almost like lets people to kind of like understand everything. And then when, you know, that theory kind of gets proven wrong, or more likely parts of the theory are invalidated, then they can adjust, because that is like the hardest part for like that Social Security person being there, right? It's a good example of they're just trying to wrap their head around everything, and they're not going to be able to talk to 50 vendors. So like that theory hopefully provides like kind of a roadmap of context for them. Now, if it's totally wrong, it's not so helpful. But usually,
no, I agree. I mean, I think ultimately of those two models, the most stable and reliable one is the theory one, right? Because you establish a theory about an existent thing, and you can go off of that, right? It's only when you're in this period where there's not enough data to base a theory on that it gets a little weird, right?
I was going to say,
I was going to
or
say
the theories have taken hold, and people can start switching over to the horse race because everyone understands.
yeah.
Oh, it's a horse race.
Yeah. Like as an example, to be snarky, right? Like, so on the topic of microservices, right? Like, it's very easy nowadays to like say like, oh, everyone's microservice washing, and this kind of happened with cloud a long time ago, right? So all these vendors just say they're doing microservices stuff, and here's what microservices really is, and to me, it's kind of like the truth is like, well, we vendors don't even know what microservices is. So I don't know how you can either, right? Like, let's all admit that we're just kind of like figuring out what it is, and we're trying to start to form like a theory, if you will, and like to form all the best practices and ways that you're doing things, and it's a really interesting type of situation we're in now. But anyways, it was a fun conference, and I gave a little talk there. And this is the other thing, and you've been to these conferences a lot, Brandon. Tell me if you've gotten used to this now, but like. There's like 120 people like listening to that talk. It's like a lot of people there. And like there was another one. There was one of these like interactive voting things in one of the conferences, one of the sessions I was in, and like there were 120 people voting on a series of 10 questions, like in real time, and that's a lot of engagement for like a session that you're in.
Yeah.
So sort of like brings out all the actual people.
Yeah, no, I think I'll actually be in Las Vegas at the Gartner Identity and Access Management Summit next week at Caesar's Palace. So anyone who's there, come by and say hi. But I do think, I mean, it is very different, right? Like than a DevOps day, because to your point, the reason all those people are there is they really are people that are trying to use technology to solve some business problem. Gartner, for better or for worse, and we could have a long discussion about if it's better for us, really represents the place you go. It's like, okay, if I'm going to build some new website for the Social Security Administration, I'm going to go there and I'm going to kind of use that to like figure out who the vendors are and what's happening. And that's why you get all of those people converging in one place, right? To figure that out, because their bosses have kind of said go off and learn, and then they kind of use Gartner also as like a way to validate their choices. We did all the work. And so, and like I said, I mean, I have very mixed feelings about that. Like yes, that's a great function. I worry sometimes, right? Like anything, if it's really only stewarded by one large analyst firm, then you kind of wonder if
Well, to that end, I don't know how this plays out. It probably actually does in identity, as we'll get to pretty well. But like, I think I was noticing that Gartner is at the moment kind of like two firms that don't seem to function well together. Or I shouldn't say function. They don't perfectly synergize. There's basically what they call the IT leaders. And when everyone talks about a Gartner analyst, it's the IT leaders. These are the people who do magic quadrants and reports, and they usually wear like blazers, and like they're like the industry analysts. And then they call them the what are they called now? Gartner technology pros. It's the Burton Group people.
Right.
And the Burton people are very non-vendor facing. They're like end user facing, and they call them GTP, Gartner Technology Professionals, and they're the ones who will write like the kind of how to and the lengthy architectural things. They always talk about it being tomes and things like that, and they do that in identity, right? Burton's big in identity.
Absolutely. Yep.
And what's starting to strike me, and I started to see this a little bit a long time ago when I would get my hands on Gartner stuff, is like most people are judging the regular analysts the way they should be judging the Gartner technology professional people, right? So everyone's always complaining about Gartner and how they don't know what they're talking about and they're not ranking things correctly. But like, I think they're assuming that what analysts actually cover is sort of like a deep technical dive on things and explaining how the technology works, which is what like the Burton people do. But Gartner doesn't really like let the Burton people out. Right? Like they're kind of like, they only let them talk to architects and actual end users and things like that. And so as a consequence, most people who complain about analysts are like, influencer type of people and people who work at vendors, right? Who don't consume the Burton stuff. And so like but they're not consuming like some of the more interesting Gartner stuff out there. And it seems to me that like, especially at this stage of like digital transformation and all this hoo-ha stuff, like things changing and going differently, that like, it would behoove Gartner to basically not merge those two things together, but somehow figure out how to expose like the Burton people more and more. Because the Burton people are more like, here's what we think microservices are and how you would use them, or here's what we think Docker is, or this new way of doing identity, we think you do it this way. Whereas like the traditional analysts are just like, here's some cool new vendors, right? Like I don't know, there's not enough mixture between those two things.
Well,
yeah, no, I agree. I think, but I think it kind of comes back to like the anchoring of Gartner, right? It's the Magic Quadrant drives the bus there, and anyone, if you really understand what goes on there, is that the industry analysts are really reflecting back to you like what they saw in the year of inquiry. So all Gartner analysts are required to do so many inquiries a day. They're on the phone, doing 30-minute blocks usually, and then they kind of reflect that back in their Magic Quadrant. And that's
No,
ultimately
totally.
what you're getting. And I think I agree. You wish, but because the Magic Quadrant gets so much emphasis, that's why I think there's so much emphasis on those things. Whereas the guys that are like, I'd almost just like, to your point about the Burton guys, they're almost just more like research technology based. They're on the front edge, and it isn't. And it's like why they have like all the useful information. They don't have a big say in the Magic Quadrant, and that therefore
I feel like they should have a relationship more like a sales rep has to a sales engineer. Right?
Yeah, that would be good.
We're like they always come in pairs, right? And the sales rep is sort of like a people person and can communicate and hook stuff up and is a little more shallow, because they need to be broad. And then whenever you need the actual technical stuff, you get we call them field engineers, but you get the SE in there and they like go really deep on it, right? And like if you have those two things together, I think it would not only like improve the material, and I say this as a reader of Gartner stuff, not as like a marketer. I mean, we have enough money that marketing's no problem. But like as a consumer of the stuff, like I would love to see those two types, like in the Magic Quadrant, plus whatever Burton has on the topic as like a 30-page thing, right? And having those two integrated together, like would be like a level up from a good O'Reilly book on the topic, and it would be a lot more actionable than that. And I think it would further like solidify Gartner's pretty much defensible position against everything else. But as long as they keep them separate, they're just like weird.
Yeah, missed opportunity for sure.
I'm sure they're making their money.
Yeah. They're public, so we can go look that up. Yeah, they do all right. So since you're going to be in Caesar's Palace next week, Brandon, I don't know if I keep wanting to call it the play yard, but there's this French thing, Payard or whatever, Payard. And I didn't get one of these, but my buddy Andrew, Schaefer, he ate this twice in a row for breakfast. You want to go to the Payard's little cafe, and you want to get the eggs Benedict on top of a croissant with lobster. $29. It was like an intoxicatingly looking breakfast. Like it was just like amazing. That's what you need to get.
All right. Well, if everyone wants to have breakfast with me, that's what we'll do.
And also there's the Bacchanal buffet, which mysteriously doesn't have a statue of Dionysus in it. It's very, very much a letdown. But everyone said that this was like an amazing buffet, and it's a buffet, but it's a pretty good buffet as Vegas buffets go. If you want to go there, that's my recommendations.
I have a lot of eating ahead of me. I like that.
That's the only good thing about Vegas.
Yes, as we've established before. And then closely connected to this, did you guys read that I want to run stateful containers thing on TechCrunch?
No.
Well,
what did it say?
It's a good read. It was basically, to be kind of snarky from what's obviously a biased position. We've reached that point, I think, in the cloud native has containers, whatever the hell you want to call it. We'll just call it containers. There's a peak that you always reach in this community where people start ranting about the fact that they actually have to pay for it to work. And so,
yes.
It's actually very good in its detail and encompassment, but it's basically like, oh, I tried to do this and I tried to do that. And what I want to emphasize to the people who do these open source projects is you should start working on these harder problems and things that do things. Because at the moment, if I just go get them, they don't do all these things. And I want to like have them be, it's basically like, I don't want to have to pay for anything. Which it never says that, but that's like this is a reoccurring pattern in sort of like the development of software nowadays, which happens in the open source world is like there's always a few people who didn't get the memo that like if you want it to work, you usually have to pay for it because like because these like Mac laptops we develop on, they ain't cheap, right? Like we need some way to fund us working on this stuff, and it's just sort of it's always, yeah, it's a fun thing to see play out. But
Yeah.
he describes sort of like a lot of what's missing from what you can just go download off of the web.
Well, and kind of back to like somebody has to pay for software. One of the things you just kind of touched on is there've been a couple of other big open source things recently. Netflix open source the Spinnaker, their continuous delivery thing. Netflix just open sources lots of stuff, and other people have done container managers and all sorts of other things in this space. And it's, I got to imagine from Pivotal's viewpoint, it's not really competition. It's just kind of validation of the way you guys are promoting that everyone should be doing it, because just because something is available as open source doesn't make it competition. There has to be somebody who can go and hold your hand and train you and do field engineering and support that stuff. And just because it's up on GitHub doesn't mean that an insurance company wants to trust their workloads to it.
I'm sure you guys see this in your vendor work as well. But yeah, I mean, everyone, if it's possible to get something free that runs and solves all your problems, then people tend to do that. But what you said is basically true.
Hey, while we're on the subject of Netflix, I would like to, because they're always open sourcing things and they're very generous, and I think we have a lot of developers and DevOps people listening. So could somebody write a start from the beginning plugin for Netflix and give it to them, so that when my son, who likes to watch the same shows over and over again, when we hit play, it would give us the option to start from the beginning? Because it would be such a fucking miracle. Like, if that kind of functionality, with all the Netflix microservices and everything, if they had the technology and expertise to build such an advanced fucking feature into their software. So, we have such geniuses out there. If someone could write start from the beginning plugin and send it over to the Netflix guys, maybe call it a cool project, give it a name like
but that's
Launchpad or something. Give it to them and see if they'd be willing to put something in, while they're reinventing every monitoring framework known to God. Could we get 10 minutes to start from the beginning? That's what I want.
Because you can't have it, because that's their core business. What you get is like, oh yeah, we run a bunch of software. That's not our competitive difference. They've got the Facebook model, right? So they've got the content and how to play it.
I'm just amazed. It's incredible that Netflix has started a company where no one has children. Clearly, no one at Netflix has children. No one at Netflix uses the service like a child would, where they like to watch the same show over and over again. Because there's nothing better than waiting with your 5-year-old and waiting for the double rewind, fast speed on 3 for like 5 minutes to get all the way to the beginning to watch Frosty the Snowman again. It's an incredible genius work there that they've done it. The recommendations engine, but somehow they can't implement the simplest thing known to mankind. So
I think bad news for you.
What?
That's dependent on the client using to play the Netflix content.
Dude, I don't care. I don't care. That is not my problem. This needs to be fixed immediately.
Now, Brandon, that would have been a great product management interview for Amazon. But I don't know if you've read the cultural hijinks that they do over at Netflix. They're a lot nicer. But at Amazon,
oh my God,
if you could rant against people, I think. But no, I think there's two things I would say. One, as I'm sure a lot of parents in the tech world think, who the fuck is designing these apps for kids? Right? Like, you know what a good app for a kid would be? There's a big ass button on it, and when you press it, something happens for 2 seconds, and then the big ass button appears again.
Over and over again.
And no other buttons on the screen. There can be no more buttons. Otherwise, about every 45 seconds is and it's just
I got bad news for you.
Now, ironically, this might be an example of, well, if I wanted to pay for it, I could get exactly that. Maybe I'm just not paying for the apps that work out well.
I don't know. Maybe you need more Netflix interfaces.
Now this
We
raises
paying for Netflix. We like it. We
But
even
which
like it.
one? Are you using the Apple TV, the Chromecast, the Roku?
This one is built in on the TV, but I think all the Samsung
Oh,
and the
no.
Sonic all have the same interface. I'm gonna go back now. I'm gonna go back and
Yeah.
document
Now
which
now
interface has it.
let,
Apple
let me
TV though, I'll tell you this: Apple TV. Complain about it, whatever you want. You know the first thing you do when you hit a play on a movie, it says resume or start from the beginning. It's like miracle. It's just a godsend feature.
Oh, that's where we watch it. I thought you wanted to remove that so it always starts from the beginning.
No, I just want it to
Or,
give me options.
yeah,
More
yeah.
options.
So
I
we
think it's your TV's fault.
No, it isn't. No, see, don't be that guy, Matt. Right? Don't apologize for the TV. No, this is a Netflix
No,
problem. They can fix it. They can
I
fix
think
it.
there are
No, don't you even go there. Oh, it
no,
can't be
there are
done.
the
Don't
Netflix,
even get it. Like, what do you mean?
Netflix on
They
my
just
Roku
open
has
sourced
the
a
no,
new framework for Hadoop. They can't put a play button and a start from the beginning.
but that's what I'm
Oh,
saying. It's your TV's
fine.
interface to
That's
that.
right. I
My
refuse
Roku
to
lets you
believe
start
that.
from the
I
beginning or
refuse.
resume.
I absolutely refuse to believe
No.
that. The people at Netflix are so geniuses, they can work around that.
now
And
this
while we're at it, the other thing on the Netflix, as all parents get, if the personalization engine is such a genius thing that I talk about, why do I get all these kids recommendations when I'm in my interface, my
So,
persona?
so
That's the other thing that is just awful.
in my house, there are 5 different interfaces to Netflix, and each one is different. Some of them go through a single account. Some of them say, "Is this
All right, don't apologize. This is a Netflix problem. This isn't. Don't make this about us.
No,
Inmates
no.
running the asylum. Everyone, right now, everyone, go read the book. Inmates are running the asylum. Matt Ray is justifying bad technology to us all. Don't do that, Matt Ray. You're better than that. Where is it? I'm gonna go find that book right now. Where is it?
It's your TV's fault. Your TV vendor has a poor UI for Netflix's API.
Yeah, this raises the second point. Is I've started to wonder. We're always going on about how if you have the continuous delivery, you can deploy features every day.
Uh-huh.
And so I've been wondering, where are those features, right? Like maybe they're infrastructure features and things like that. But I use Uber pretty frequently, and they don't really like add new stuff that frequently. I mean, they do more frequently than an enterprise software cycle. And then Netflix doesn't seem to add new things that frequently. So maybe it's at the infrastructure layer and the back end and all of that, or those numerous interfaces that we're interacting with. But in general, when you go see the software is eating the world style presentation that everyone gives, including ourselves, like, Uber and Netflix are always cited. And I've been starting to wonder, like, where's all those features we get every day, right? Because you could evolve and do. Maybe there's all these what do they call them, canary deployments that they're doing, and I've just never been selected for the new things.
There's some of that, but like every morning, like when I wake up, I pick up my phone and it's like there are eight products that, 8 of your applications have been updated. It's every single day.
Yeah, Facebook seems pretty sophisticated about that. They had new features all the time, which they're always like bugging me out with. And then Tumblr has been adding new features recently.
See,
So
that's what Brandon wants. He wants Netflix to be different every time he logs in. Like Facebook.
No, I just want to start from the beginning. That's all I want.
Mine has that.
Yeah, you got to start using
I
the
don't
Apple
have it.
TV.
I'm gonna take it. I'm just gonna
Go
take
get a
a
Roku.
picture of it. Be like, guys,
Yeah.
fix it.
Brandon wants to pick up the big sink and throw it through the window and run off under the planes.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. RPM. Good old McMurphy.
Well, speaking of software that everyone likes, how about that go-to meeting? So Citrix is going to spin that out.
Woo!
Are you guys? What do you guys use when we're using Zoom to record this? So I assume
Yeah, you just answered that question. Yeah.
Your Zoom all the time.
Yeah, we've taken the tour of every single video conferencing product out there, and we're currently on Zoom.
Do you guys use the Lotus same time there in IBM land?
Yeah, we have IBM's got a tool like Smart Meetings, but the other people use WebEx. I think WebEx is probably still the one I run into the most.
Yeah.
But they're all like, it makes sense, but I just none of them. I mean, they all have their pros and cons. Like, just no one has really nailed it. I guess it's going to be one of those things that someone eventually is going to get it right and be like, "Oh, that's how we should have done it the whole time."
Yeah.
or not?
Yeah, I mean, to give my annual spiel of Citrix, what a weird company. Like just portfolio wise, right? You've got virtual desktops, Zen, you got a Cloud Stack, NetScaler, and then previously GoToMeeting, right? Like it's just an interesting portfolio that they have. I guess they're spinning off the GoToMeeting thing.
Aren't they spinning off some other stuff too? Don't they have, I don't know, a database or?
I don't think they have a database.
I don't know.
That would be super odd.
It's funny as you kind of go through the list. I just kind of hear my private equity bells are going off. I'm like, gosh, the private equity guys must be all up in this. I mean,
Just carve it up.
carve that thing up, and yeah, because you kind of did list them like, none of that really seems that related. So it seems like they may be next on the list of Silverton.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, the NetScaler business, as I recall, is quite a good business, and the virtual desktop business is not like super mega awesome, but I think they are pretty good. It's just basically them and VMware who dominate that market, so it's probably like a good cash cow you can just kind of run, and there's some interesting assets there, but together it's Citrix has never struck me as like being good at a holding company, kind of like CA and other places are. And so maybe
they have Mark Hinkle, right? Don't they still have Mark Hinkle? So I mean, now he's by his own division, right? So I mean, you get Hinkle as well. Spin him off into his own company.
There are like 3 of our listeners who are like, who?
Did he ever show you the video of he was getting some trees cleared on his land in North Carolina? And he priced out 2 options. You can hire the team of people who come and cut down the tree and haul them off and put it in a chipper. And then there was this other person who's just one guy. And he's got this device that hooks up to his tractor. And in one move, it cuts down the tree and sucks it into a chipper.
Oh, nice.
And he said he had a video of it, and it does like almost exactly that. It's like there's that old movie from the 80s about like a big black piece of smoke tearing down a rainforest, and a human gets converted to a fairy. And
what?
But they have a machine like that, but like it's intense.
It seems fitting. It's like the DevOps method of tree removal. You have it all integrated.
They did a value stream map, and they're
just like, oh, this is what you want to do? We'll just all do it together. We don't need to have like a different team and make it flow and plans and pipelines. We just get it automated. We do it over and over.
Yeah, the GitHub method is you go to Home Depot and rent your own Bobcat. You go nuts on your own stuff, and then you blog about it.
That's right. And then someone has a guest post on TechCrunch where they're like, "Hey, vendors, why don't you haul the chopped down logs to the place where I chip them? Why can't I not just do that?"
Yeah. No, I think that was my dad's 60th birthday. My mom got him a Bobcat rental for like 3 days to just go nuts.
So did you read over the Datadog analysis of what people are doing with Docker, Matt Ray?
I did.
You pulled out some of the highlights, and that's the thing that I remember the most about it is they are short lived, which kind of fits the hypothesis or theory of how containers are being used. Right, they're very ephemeral. But are there other things you thought stood out interesting there?
There was the churn of companies that had used it, and Datadog said they were already up to 6% of their traffic was container based, which is impressive since it's a new technology. There was some theorizing that maybe they were coming to Datadog because they had good container support.
Sure.
There's a little bit of that. And anecdotally, which is the plural of data. Or
I think it's the other way around, but who's counting?
You're starting to hear stories of people like, yeah, we tried Docker, but it didn't work. And then what they come back to is, oh, we tried, it didn't work because we had we needed what the TechCrunch article said we needed. And then they come back around when they have like a framework that works. They're using maybe a Cloud Foundry, or maybe they're using Kubernetes or something that ties it all together and makes it more coherent. And obviously that's where the Docker guys are going. They want to give you a suite of products that all work together to give you what everybody who reads TechCrunch wants, right? A vendor.
You know what you should do next week, Brandon? Since you're at the Identity Conference, are you going to be doing booth time or anything?
Yes, of
You
course. Of course
you
I
should
do.
try to ask every person who comes up. So, what do you think about Docker? Right? It's just sort of like as a survey, you can report
Uh-huh.
back to us and just see the data, which is the plural for anecdotes that you can back to us is just like what people say, right? Like because we had people come. Not everyone actually asked about Docker, just a few people. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see the people go to Identity Conference, like what their take is on all of that.
All right,
Yeah.
I got my new microphone. Maybe I should try to actually
Ooh,
do some
field. Send Brandon
field
out in the field.
recording
Yeah.
and report back. I was trying to think: is Docker officially in the trough of disillusionment yet? Like, where are we at on
I
that?
think so.
Are we? So
I
it feels
think
like we should be close. If we're not there, we should be approaching trough very, very soon. I would assume.
I think what Docker needs is kind of what we saw at reInvent is they need a whole bunch of service providers who get it and can lift other companies in out of that or cross that chasm for them. Because I think it's still too new for a lot of people. They're like, oh yeah, everybody wants containers. Where are we going to hire those guys?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it's just, but as we've talked about it many, many times on this show, right? They are hopefully Docker's in the middle of okay. Step one, build widely used open source project and get tremendous awareness. All right, check. Docker's done that. Step two, build adjacent software that you sell to those customers that solves some great business problems and sell it at a price that's so cheap that people don't, only the really, really crazy people won't pay for it. And I think that's like the second part is where we're stuck, right? Like no one's really sure like what is that thing and what am I going to pay for? And there's all these projects. So this is really, that's why I think you get in the disillusionment. It's like no one really knows. And then it's like, it'll never be fixed. And then boom, it gets figured out. And then it's like, okay, everyone gets happy again.
And all sorts of competition jump to step two before
Yeah.
Docker
Well, this
gets
is the
there,
whole
right?
problem. Like,
Yeah.
Cote is always like, why don't we all just get together and work it out? It's like, well, because we're blood sucking capitalists, right? And like, and so what do we do? Like, everyone's like, builds their decks, adds all these features, and then like, says they're the only one, and we all go to the conference, and then eventually someone's like, oh, that one actually works. That's the vendor we believe in, and then we all coalesce around that feature set. So it's just sort of we just have to like live through this painful part of the process.
And I think we're looking. I think they're going to be years and years of fragmentation and fighting, and it's not a winner takes all anymore. But
well, that's the whole thing. It's usually three, right? Like in the end, most markets will come back with like a leader, a challenger, and then like a niche players, and that's what everyone wants to win, right? And obviously, until a winner's declared, it'll just be war. But it's always funny for us because I think it's like in our world with like years, like yeah, in 36 months this will all be figured out. But like in other industries, it's like like 30 years will go by before they figure it out. So yeah, okay, the next 36 months will be like really complicated and a pain in the ass, but then it'll be obvious, and we'll all be onto some new technology. Matt Ray will be onto some new company, and be like no one gets it, it's some movement, it's an open source thing, and it'll all work out.
I like your optimism.
I like it. It always works out, man. It always works. It does.
Works out.
It does.
There
You
you
look
go.
at these other stuff.
Software.
I mean, look at monitoring. We figured that out. No one's using Nagios anymore.
There you go. Monitoring, solve problem.
Monitoring, I mean, that's all been done. I mean, that just took we're only 30 years into this, and really have made no progress in the last 10. So
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's instead of having a predictions episode every year, we should have an episode that's like the standard annual conversations, right? Like one of them will be like, in order to make money, you have to sell something.
that's right.
and the other one will simply be called monitoring. What's this year's reinvention of the wheel?
That's right. Yeah. Next year's forecast. Here it is. Very simple. Nagios will be here in 3 years. Datadog won't. That's very easy. It's like anyone who wants to put money on it, go. Let's do it.
I think the annual monitoring conversation is a little more detailed. Like also, App Dynamics was having a conference in Vegas this week. I noticed, and I was thinking, I guess you would call it the monitoring special case of the innovator's dilemma, which is basically like, so why doesn't BMC and HP just do this? Right? Like, so what you're doing is you're going out and collecting some numbers from some computers and putting it on a dashboard. right? I mean, like, and there's some details under there, and like, and it's not, I don't say that to belittle New Relic and App Dynamics at all, right? Because getting to the point where you can do that is difficult. It's more to be like, so why didn't the incumbents just do that a long time ago, right? Like how is it that I came up with this one of my kooky little metaphors or analogies at AD Gartner thing, and it's like it's a lot of this stuff is like the innovator's dilemma in product management is kind of like that. There's always this scene in a zombie movie where I guess they call it dramatic irony. The audience knows something that the characters don't, and a character in the movie is like, "What's wrong with that person over there? I wonder how I could go stick my hand in their mouth and check them out." And you want to be like,
Don't do
"Fucking
that.
idiot! It's a zombie. Everyone knows what a zombie is. If I saw a zombie, I would instantly know what it was, and I would stay the fuck away." But for some reason, in every single zombie movie ever made, they're like, "What's wrong with that guy over there?" And like it's almost like that same sort of weird dramatic irony plays out in like the monitoring space all the time, where it's like, well, the wily people are going to quit that thing again and go rewrite the whole thing from scratch and do APM again. Like, who saw that one coming? Right? Like, so like in 5 years, when New Relic and App Dynamics are safely ensconced in some PE firm or like CA or BMC or IBM or HP or Cisco or Microsoft, there's going to be some wily startup who's like, have you ever thought about managing the performance of these newfangled type of applications that we have? And they'll have to invent I'm going on a Brandon rant here. All these like new frameworks and funny name things to like extract the metrics out and put them here. And then they'll be like, you know what you really want to monitor is how long it takes your end users to do something. And then they'll say, you know what's really hard is tracing the complete calls that goes all the way down to a database to see what went wrong. And that's really valuable because people are going to abandon their shopping carts if you don't do this stuff quickly. And then we'll be old fogies, and it'll be like the I watched that Yorkshire like gentleman thing from Monty Python, and then we'll be sitting here complaining about how we used to have to suck tea out of a rag in our day. Right? Like it's, I don't know why people don't know it's a zombie, right? Like just deal with it.
Just love it. It's zombie. I love it.
Yes.
I wish I could add something to that, but I'm just well said, Coach. Well said.
Well said.
You know, somehow I feel like maybe the identity market is immune to this zombie ignoramusness, right? Like there was basically there was the guy who did the Identity 2.0 stuff, and OAuth came in, and then maybe you guys have like some ninjas or something that you send out, but you just like totally eliminated any like new up and coming people. It's just done. They were dead. Like
They're done.
Yeah.
and it's just like
They've
nope.
They've got a CDC. They're on top of it. They're like, well, you know what? We don't need, identity's too hard for disruption.
It was almost like to do another metaphor. It was kind of like in World War II, and you had the Americans, we'll call them Active Directory, and then you had the Russians, we'll call them LDAP. And normally they don't like each other, but there was this threat to each of them. And then the Active Directory and LDAP got together and just totally blew up the disruption.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Send in the bombers and just carpet bomb the crap out of those disruptors. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah. Well, I think, the one thing that's always going to make monitoring, especially in the world of DevOps, right? Developers consume monitoring tools and therefore they have to use it. And anytime they have to touch something, there's always like, I'm just going to build something better. Whereas you get a couple layers of remove, like identities, a little bit different. Developers aren't as quick to like, okay, I'm going to build my own identity thing, right? So that's why, that's sort of like your thing about disruption and monitoring is like every year you've got a new influx of developers coming into the market. And they're always getting exposed to these tools, and then they want to write something for themselves, and then the cycle just repeats over and over, probably faster than anything, other than maybe programming languages, right, which kind of go in and out of vogue. So, but with that said, wish the monitoring people best of luck. I'm sure it'll be well. I'm sure many of you will be bought, and Nagios will continue on, and the cycle will continue. It'll be fun for all of us. It'll be good.
So you're bullish on monitoring startups is what I'm hearing.
They'll get bought. I mean, someone's gonna buy them. I mean, no doubt about that.
Yeah. No, and yeah, I think everything except for identity is hitting that path where it's like it's easy enough to just write your own and share it, find it on GitHub, and it makes it more and more fragmented going forward. So like if I'm if I'm starting up a company today, I don't know where to go for monitoring, and I haven't been out of the monitoring game for that long. Um,
Nagios.
Well, I know I don't want Nagios, but and I know why I don't want it, but like the state of the art, it's hard to know what the state of the art is, and so much
Yeah.
of it is use case specific. It depends, like, what am I trying to monitor? What do I like? What do I, what have I used previously? And so you just get this super cargo culting,
Right.
everyone writing their own, and
Well, this is the Cote world, right? But the hope and dream, and I think this will go maybe 1,000 years, would be like, it's the platform needs to have all of this stuff, right? That you don't need to keep, building all these crazy monitoring things. Because I mean, just like imagine, like you buy a car, it comes instrumented. It's very obvious what's instrumented with it.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
the
just
hope,
saying there's a little company in the Pacific Northwest where that strategy worked out pretty well.
pretty
A
well.
lot of happy
So,
customers.
so we'll see. Maybe that's the hope is maybe we just need a new platform, and there's a lot of people fighting for that too.
Yeah. Well, before we get to recommendations, I wanted to insert a little bit of follow up. One of them is a synthesized follow up. We'll call it Costco follow up. As Matt Ray reminded me, I think, is this in March? Come March 2016, Costco will no longer be accepting Amexes. So I would like to tell the Costco Kirkland fans out there, you need to start researching which card you want to get.
done.
I think they're going to accept MasterCard, right?
No,
So
Visa.
maybe, it's Visa. I thought it was MasterCard.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Okay.
Well, basically what they're doing is switching to commoditized credit cards. So this means you can get rid of your Amex if you're like me. That's the only reason you had it was for Costco. And you can kind of roll over that thinking into normal credit cards. Now I know Matt Ray is probably like, I get 3% cash back done.
Yep.
Like I think that's which
I just got a new card like 2 days ago.
is probably wise. But everyone else, now is your time to like unfurl your wings and think about what card you're going to start putting your $300-$400 grocery trips on, accumulating your points or your cash back. So you've been notified. Also, I wanted to announce that I just checked. I have 83,657 miles on American. And so if anyone wants to send me to Australia, I think I can make executive platinum. I have till the end of February. Email me. I need to get about 25,000 miles, and then I'll be executive platinum. And I think also American now offers you divorce fees coverage. So I'll look into that. So the follow up I wanted to put in is that I did go look at our iTunes listing, and we have like 6 5-star ratings and 3 reviews. So good job to everyone who did that before we were joking around about it. That's fun. There's nice reviews there. They're very, very pleasant. It's good stuff. So it turns out our listeners are not jerks. They're actually giving us good reviews.
Nice.
So what recommendation do you have this week, Matt?
Oh, so I have just a bunch of random YouTube videos. We'll put those in the show notes.
Matt Ray's Panoply Wonder Calmer.
You tweet them on Twitter, and Twitter is a fire hose. It's like a river with fire hoses going into it. I've stopped paying attention. So
The veritable Amazon.
Yes.
Wait, no, that's someone else.
Yeah, in case you missed it. But the McSweeney folks, the fine folks over at McSweeney's, have the follow-up to their by far the most popular McSweeney post of all time of its decorative gourd season. The follow-up was posted yesterday.
That's right.
Not exactly safe for work, but go read it. If you missed decorative gourd season, go read that, and then read it's was it rotting? Oh, geez.
Yeah, as to buy you some time, I think every time I encounter a McSweeney's article, I know I will be pleased after reading it, but it's a matter of opportunity cost. It's a commitment to get full pleasure out of a McSweeney's article, so I usually don't read them.
Okay.
Because I'm lazy. But this one, well worth your time.
Yes, rotting decorative
this
gourd
one,
season.
if you're old people like we are, it might even make you think, man, do you remember suck.com? Those were good times.
Yes, good times. So that's my pick.
Yeah. How about yourself, Brandon?
All right, I'm going to give you 2 quick recommendations. The first is I have to recommend it now based on Matt Ray's conversation with me earlier. So the inmates are running the asylum, why high-tech products drive us crazy, and how to restore the sanity. It's It's by Alan Cooper. It's just a classic technology book, still relevant today. It's been out there for a while. You must read it, and that'll explain to you why Matt Ray is wrong and why I should have a start from the beginning option of Netflix. So that's my one recommendation. My other recommendation is actually I'm going to go with an anti-recommendation. I listen to many, many podcasts, and Stamps.com advertises on many of them. So what I want to recommend to everyone is to not use Stamps.com. That if it makes no sense to me why Stamps.com is a product or company that exists today. If for some reason you need to mail something, one, you shouldn't mail anything. You should just email it to somebody if you have to. But if for some reason you need stamps, this is what you should do. You can go to the post office and buy them in mass quantity, so you always have them. Or you can go to the grocery store and buy them. And really, you can buy stamps almost anywhere.
Costco.
So, Costco. And you don't want the free scale. Why would you want to scale to weigh things at home and then have to take it somewhere? That's a total waste of time. So please don't use stamps.com. I've never used it. I think it's an awful service.
Okay, that was going to be my follow-up
It's
question.
an awful idea. I just want them to stop advertising on the podcast that I like.
You're killing our advertisers, Brad.
I know. I don't care. This is it. I can't take it anymore. I don't want to hear anything more about it. I think even as the host is reading it, they're like, no one would use stamps.com. It's the stupidest service ever invented. So this holiday season, don't use stamps.com. Buy things from Amazon and just ship them right to your friends and family, or just go to the post office and buy a lot of stamps. So
I like the way the guy in the political gabfest reads the stamps ads. He's the best stamps.com reader ever. Do
you think secretly he thinks it's stupid? Right? I think he has to.
I like his ad reads because it's basically, he doesn't say it this way, but you can imagine in his voice, it's basically like the post office. Ew.
That in the gist. If you've heard the stamps.com ad on the gist, it's for a fact he does not believe in it at all.
Well, I'll just wrap up really quickly. When I was in Vegas, because of points, I stayed at the Westin, which is a block from the Strip. You can book there. It's like a totally normal Westin, except they've got like some slot machines on the ground floor. They have in-room coffee for free. Very hard to find in Vegas. So next time you're in Vegas, just book yourself at the Westin. Don't stay in the hotel. Probably too late for you, Brandon. But it's basically like a 5-minute walk from the Westin to Caesar's Palace and other stuff. It's a great place to stay. Then you get your points, all that kind of stuff. It's good. I could recommend it. And I'll put a picture of the best bar that I've ever seen in Vegas that you go past when you walk between the Westin and Caesars. They serve a Bud or a Bud Light as a condiment to a $3 fourth pound beef hot dog. It's basically like fourth pound hot dog, $3 with Bud or Bud Light, right? It's just sort of like that's thrown in there. So as always, this has been Software Defined Talk, which you can find at softwaredefinedtalk.com. And this is episode 50. Which is fantastic. So you can find the show notes at cote.io/SDT50. Links to all those fun things. And if you've got some reason for me to go to Australia between now and the end of February, be sure to email me. I would love to come to your event and make Executive Platinum. Bye-bye.
Bye.